And she said, Mr. Bruce, I've been waiting on you to come. I was like, you were? I didn't know this lady from hole in the wall. And she said, I want to show you something. And she took me in and she showed me her kitchen. And her
Mm-hmm.
kitchen was totally empty. She had
Mm-hmm.
hired a contractor to redo her kitchen. They
Oh.
came in and they gutted it out. And all of the equipment that was in the kitchen was sitting in her backyard. And
Ooh.
her kitchen was empty. And she said, I gave these people $30,000 to redo my
God.
kitchen. She said they put everything out in the backyard. They came back and said, we ran out of money and we need more.
Greetings, my posse. Welcome to the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney. I'm Rodney J. Littles.
And I'm Rodney Butler. Hey, Rodney, we made it almost through an entire calendar year. I want to start out to letting everybody know, saying happy Kwanzaa to everybody. And we hope everybody, we absolutely hope everybody not only, observe these 7 principles of Kwanzaa to the remainder of the year, but we hope that people observe these 7 principles of Kwanzaa throughout all of 2025, brother.
Yes. And as to those who celebrated Christmas and Hanukkah, we hope that you have a great holiday season also.
Absolutely. Hey, Rodney, look, we don't want to waste people time. We know we know that they are anxious to see this Kwanzaa special that we're doing, and it shows, brother, just like you've done all year long, Rodney. You never stop working, man. You are
Thank you, bro.
you are the busiest man in podcasting. So
Yeah, Santa still got me working. You see, I got my health
got you out,
hat on, bro. He got me cleaning up the naughty list.
and ready to go.
He got me cleaning up the naughty list.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Rodney, with that being said, I know we got a great guest on, and we're happy to bring him back again. Rodney, what we got? What we got tonight?
Well, I have my mentor and my big brother that I've looked up to since I've been in Georgia, the Honorable State Rep Roger Bruce. Full disclosure, Rodney, I met him when I first came to Georgia.
That's right.
And 2 of his buddies, classmates, Bruce Dobbs and David Martin, introduced me to him. And I can't tell you how much I've learned from him and how much I have gotten the opportunity to work with him under the Gold Dome as a legislative aide. So full disclosure, I've been around Roger for a long time, and I'm just grateful he's made time for us on this Kwanzaa special to join us as he retires. 2003 he started. Roger represented House District 61, which included South Fulton County, which includes the recently formed city of South Fulton, North Atlanta, Douglas County, and Cobb County. Man, Roger served on the Insurance, Education, Motor Vehicles, Intergovernmental Coordination Committees. He's also served on the Appropriations, Judiciary, Game, Fish, and Parks, Small Business Development, and Human Relations and Aging Committees. Welcome, Roger, man. So thankful for you to be here with us.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. And,
Go ahead.
Full disclosure, he keeps calling me his big brother, but he's older than me. But that's okay. We're brothers in the spirit.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of things that we have done together. I anticipate there'll be things that we will continue to do, and our families are connected, and I just look forward to spending some time getting some other things done. I got some other plans. You guys said we wanted to make this like a conversation, so let's do that.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And because I see it as, people keep saying, well, why are you retiring? And my thought process is this like a baseball game. And you got 9 players on the team, and everybody has a base to play. And if I'm the first baseman and the ball gets hit to third base and I run to third base to catch it, I'm in the third baseman's way. And my base is not covered. So really, I'm not retiring. I just want to play a different base.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy. You always was good with the words.
Yeah. Well, but I was trying to make it where people understand.
Right.
You don't stop. You just
Right.
do something different and get out of the way of the
Right.
people that want to play the bass that you're now playing. And so that's really what it's about. I'm in a situation where as you age, you certain things are just not as important as they once were, and other things become more important. And I want to do something that leaves, something, a legend of some sort when I'm gone. If you think about it, you probably know somebody that passed away maybe 2 years ago, and you can't even remember what the heck they did, or you can't remember anything about them. You have to force yourself. I don't want that. I want my grandchildren to know that their grandpa made a difference. That's really all it boils down to.
Yes,
Well,
legacy really becomes, a very important thing,
that's
Yeah.
right.
at certain stages in life. And I definitely feel and understand exactly what you're saying about working or about, the whole retiring thing, because
Yeah.
since I've been quote unquote retired, I've never been so busy in my life.
Hmm.
So I just, just focus on other things. So definitely
Hmm.
understand what you're saying right there, Rep Bruce.
Yeah.
Roger, give me an
Hmm.
idea and Rodney an idea of what motivated you at a young age to want to be involved in public service.
I came to Atlanta in 1971. I came here from an all-black military high school, or all-black Catholic military high school,
Whoa.
which was, imagine the discipline there. And but what was really weird about it, by day it was a Catholic school. They were teaching me how to love my neighbor, but at night it was a military school, so they taught me how to kill him. And so it was you learned all of those things, but you learned discipline. That was the main
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to Atlanta, um, there was a governor's race going on. And it was a guy that was trying to get himself involved in that governor's race. His name was J.B. Stoner. I don't know if you ever heard that name. But,
Yes.
but, but J.B. was connected to Stone Mountain and some other stuff.
Okay.
But he was also the head of the Ku Klux Klan. And one of his campaign slogans was that he was going to get rid of crime in Georgia because he was going to send niggas back to Africa.
Whoa.
And yeah, that was my reaction. Whoa. I'm trying to respond to your question, about
Right.
why.
Yeah.
And, my first reaction was, where the heck am I? Because this was the first South that I'd ever come. And I was on the campus in Morehouse. I came here to go to Morehouse. And
Mm-hmm.
Morehouse had a program where they would bring guest speakers in to pump us up and to motivate us and make us feel strong. And this guy came in and he said things I had just never heard a black man say before. I grew up in a household, my father was not part of my life. I never lived in the same house with him. So I didn't get any inspiration from him. Um, Most of the men that I knew as I was growing up were alcoholics, the projects, in Harlem. I was born in Harlem, New York. Most of the men were alcoholics. Uh, they just didn't pump you up at all. But this guy said things, about black people being together, about man standing up, just stuff I had never heard. And so turns out this guy's name was Maynard Jackson. And Maynard and I became friends. And I ended up working at his law firm. He was not the mayor at the time. He was a practicing lawyer. He was involved in city government. But as time went on and I got more involved with him, and I saw that there were opportunities to make changes, to impact. That's what I decided I wanted to do. I decided because you didn't have to pick your major right away.
Okay.
So my sophomore year, I picked my major, and it was political science because I wanted to learn how government worked, how I could impact things, and do things to make a difference.
Gotcha.
And so I majored in political science. Uh, I ended up restarting. There was a dormant version of the Young Democrats
Okay.
in Georgia. And, so I revitalized that. I brought back the statewide chapter of the Young Democrats. I got involved in all these different campaigns. When Maynard decided to run for mayor, I headed up his campaign on the campuses over in the Atlanta University Center, and he won. So, like I said, one thing led to another. And when I graduated from Morehouse, I I went to work for a phone company. You know, when you go to college, you know, every senior year there's the job everybody got to have. You know, and that year it was the phone company, and I went to work for the phone company, and I didn't really understand at the moment what they were doing, but they sent me to Macon. When I
Mm.
graduated, my first job was in Macon, Georgia. And now you got a guy coming from Harlem to Macon. That was dramatic, okay?
Yeah.
And so I'm down there, and they asked me, I was there maybe 3 months, and then they called me in and they said, you know, you've been doing a wonderful job. You know, you've done all things right, blah, blah, blah. We want to promote you. And I'm like, 3 months, you know, that was going on in my head. 3 months, what's going on? And they put me in front of, they had like a horseshoe, and they put me in front of all of these folks. And it dawned on me, none of them were black, not
Mm.
one.
Mm.
And so it dawned on me what was going on. The Civil Rights Act required that they promote a certain number of black people to management before, you know, promoting some of the other folks. They
Mm.
sent me to Macon to promote me because of the laws that had just been put in place.
Oh.
And I didn't realize it until I was sitting there, what was going on. And they had me sitting in front of these the folks, and I'm saying these people gonna kill me down here in Macon. I mean, that was the first thing that came to my
You're
head.
right.
They gonna kill me.
Military background.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting in the room, and he's telling about all these wonderful things, all these great things, and I'm looking around this room with the faces that these people had, like, oh, this is crap, you know, you know. They didn't say it, but I could feel it. The tension was through the roof.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting in there, and finally, after he get through saying all of this stuff, he asked me if I had anything I wanted to say. And you know, what comes up comes out.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I want to be clear to all of you in this room. I know that all that stuff that he just said about me, I haven't been here long enough to show all of that. I'm here and I'm getting promoted because you can't get promoted because of the new laws that are in place. But I can do every single thing that he said. I can do it. But if not for the new laws, I would have never had an opportunity to demonstrate that I could do it. So I don't feel bad about getting promoted. I feel bad that y'all got to wait your turn. But the bottom line is that if they didn't promote me, they can't promote you. So I'm benefiting you. I could feel the tension go out of the room. I could feel it. And when it was over with, this lady came up to me and she said, you know, I'm going to be indispensable to you. And I'm like, okay, what does this mean? Is she going to help me being
Mm-hmm.
indispensable, or is she
Mm-hmm.
going to be a pain in the butt indispensable?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure out what it was. But my thought process, given everything else, was that it was a latter.
Right.
So I told her, I said, you know, I know about a test for indispensability. And I think we ought to take that test just to make sure what's going on. She was like, okay, she fell for it. She didn't know I was getting ready to set her up. So I told her, I said, go get a cup of water. She went and got the cup of water. And I said, fill it up. I said, put your finger in it, you know, because this water is us. You know, we're in this jar. We can't get out. We're in here together. Now, I want you to stick your finger in that water because that's you. And I want you to mix it up real good so that the team knows that you are part of this team. I said, now take your finger out. I said, the size of the hole you left in that water shows how indispensable you are to this team. She went sat her butt down. I had no more trouble out of her. And
Oh, that's a good one.
we did that. I think I stayed there for maybe 6 months, and they promoted me again and moved me to Atlanta. I mean, excuse me, moved to Macon, and they had me over the installation department. I didn't know a hammer from a screwdriver, and so but they put me over the folks that put up the phones back then. And back then, putting in a phone was a different story than it is now. Now you just pick it up and talk. But back then you had to plug stuff in, all that kind of stuff. And I got there a couple of days before my day was supposed to start so that I could try to get a lay of the land because I knew I was getting ready to go to the same crap again. And I went by the office. I did not tell them who I was. And they knew I didn't have a background in installing phones. And one of the guys came up to me. He thought he was being funny. He said, well, I know you're going to be starting on Monday, but he didn't know I was going to be his boss. And he said, I need your help. I said, what you need? He said, go and get me a box of dial tone.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, okay, this dude trying to send me because I didn't know the dial tone came in a box. And but he wanted me to go get him a box of dial tone. And I told him, I said, I don't start till Monday. And I don't want to start moving stuff around. Because I was making up something because I didn't know what box of dial tone was. I said, but when I get here Monday, ask me that again. And he said, all right. So meantime, I found out what dial tone was. So I knew he was trying to set me up. And so Monday came, and we in there, and they finally introduced me as their boss. And I could see the reaction in the room there too. But that guy was sitting there, and I said, when I was here Friday, you asked me to go get a box of dial tone. You don't know what a box of dial tone is? How long you been working here? You didn't know dial tone didn't come in a box. I made him look so stupid in front of everybody. And so we went through that.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally they sent me back to Atlanta, which was fine. I get back to Atlanta, they had me in the sales department. And but what you had, you had certain types of phones, certain type of equipment. You had to go through training to be able to sell the high stuff, and your biggest commissions were based on selling that stuff. So they had me down there selling these little mediocre things. I wasn't making no money. And so I kept asking, I said, when are you going to send me to training? Because I want to sell the PBXs. That's what they call them. And they said, we get to you. But they hired white folks, and they sent them straight to training. I'm still selling this other stuff. So here I go again. I went and found me a customer, a black customer, that had a whole bunch of money. And I told him, I read up on the IBMs, on the big type equipment. And I learned about it. And I told him all about it. And he said, okay, I'll buy it from you.
I love it.
And and I told him what was going on, because I said, now you can't tell me you're going to buy this and to change your mind. He said, no, I won't do that to you. I said, okay. So while I was out talking to him, I had told my boss what I was doing. My boss was black, actually.
Oh.
But he wasn't like me. Okay, let's put it that way. And I told him what I was going to do. And while I was gone, he told his boss, who was white, what I was doing. So they were waiting on me to get back. They didn't know I had already arranged all of this, okay, that I had everything all lined up. And when I got back, they met me at the door. They called me everything but a child of God. You messed up our blah, blah, blah. They just went on and on and on about what I had messed up because I had not been properly trained to sell this equipment. And after they got through, I said, y'all done? And they said, yeah. And I handed them the contract. And back then, $40,000-$50,000 was a lot of money.
Heck yeah.
And that's what that contract was for. It was for a chunk of money. So guess what happened? A couple of days later, I got sent to training.
All right.
And but that's how I had to do things.
Right.
What made me finally leave that company, I got promoted again, and they wanted to send me to training to teach me how to get along with white managers, because that's all they had. That's all they had. Yeah. And they hired this black guy from IBM. Remember, back then, IBM was a big to-do.
Yeah.
And they hired this guy to come teach a class on how to get along with white managers. And part of that class, and I don't remember everything, but some things you remember.
Right.
Part of that class was if you invite a white manager to your house for dinner, what should you feed them?
Oh.
And the answer was whatever they want to eat. I said, okay. But then they said, if you go to a white manager's house for dinner, what should you expect to eat? And the answer was whatever they fixed. I went berserk. I said, wait a minute.
Mm.
They come to my
Mm.
house, I got to give them what they want. I got to go to their house, I got to take what they give me.
Mm.
That is our history. That's all that
Yes.
reminded me of was slavery.
Yes.
And I said, I went to the head of the phone company at that time, and I cussed him out. I knew I was getting ready to quit, so I didn't care. I went, I went to the president of this company. Back then, it was Southern Bell,
Mm-hmm.
and Southern Bell was a subsidiary of AT&T,
Okay. Right.
and
Right.
back then,
Right.
and I went to him and I read the riot act. They ended up firing that guy from
Oh.
IBM,
Oh.
but I had had enough, and I decided to leave. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, as time went on, my son was born.
Mm-hmm.
I got married first, and then my son was born, and I, like I said, I grew up without a father in my life, and I was going to make sure that my son wasn't going to have that go on. And you know my son, you know the
Mm-hmm.
relationship I have with him,
Yes, sir.
and so my focus got to be on him. And
Right.
then my daughter came, and you know how I am about my daughter.
Yeah, the
And
princess.
yeah, and so I wanted to make sure that they had all of the stuff from a dad that I didn't have,
Gotcha.
and so I did all of that. And then there was a guy ran for he was in the House of Representatives, and he moved over to the Senate, so his seat opened up, and a bunch of people came to me and they asked me if I would run for that seat. I had been through PTA president, all that kind of stuff. I had been through community service. I mean, I had done
Mm-hmm.
all the things that led up to it, but I had not thought about running for office again until that time. That was 2002.
Okay.
And I ran, and the guy that it was an open seat, but one of the people that also ran was Julian Bond's son. And
Mm.
Julian, was a big guy, back then. He
Mm-hmm.
was he was a big to
Mm-hmm.
do. And so I just knew I wasn't gonna beat this guy. And but I got out there and I did everything I knew to do. I campaigned, and we ended up in a runoff. And he had more votes than me in the primary, but it was only maybe about 40, 50 votes. So I said, man, I can do this. So I went to every place that I had not had a chance to go to the first time, and we talked to everybody, and I got elected. And I was surprised Julian didn't really get that involved in it for whatever
Mm.
reason. But the bottom line is I got elected, and I immediately started doing things that I felt needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that transpired was there was a lady, I had knocked on her door, and she said, Mr. Bruce, I've been waiting on you to come. I was like, you were? I didn't know this lady from a hole in the wall. And she said, I want to show you something. And she took me in and she showed me her kitchen. And her
Mm-hmm.
kitchen was totally empty. She had
Mm-hmm.
hired a contractor to redo her kitchen. They
Oh.
came in and they gutted it out. And all of the equipment that was in the kitchen was sitting in her backyard. And
Oh.
her kitchen was empty. And she said, I gave these people $30,000 to redo my
God.
kitchen. She said they put everything out in the backyard. They came back and said we ran out of money and we need more money.
Oh.
And I felt horrible, because I'm like, okay, what can I do about this? And I talked to some other people, and it turned out we ended up introducing my very first piece of legislation. I had Republican support, and the Democrats were actually in authority at that time.
Right. You in the majority.
I was in the majority, but I got some Republicans and Democrats both. And what the bill said was it provided training for contractors. And it said if you complete this training, then you get a a certificate to show that you've been trained and that you've gone through. And the training was about all kinds of things, how to treat people, blah, 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 all the
Right.
stuff.
Right.
And if you get the license, just like an auto license, if you get a license, that says that you have been through all of this stuff, this prep stuff. And you, as a consumer, you could ask the contractor, do you
Mm-hmm.
have a license? And
Mm-hmm.
if they do, then you know they've gone through all this stuff. If
Gotcha.
they don't, you can still hire them if you want to,
Right.
but you're doing it at your own risk. So that
Gotcha.
was my very first piece of legislation, a contracting license bill. The next thing we went through, it was 13 of us that came in there at the same time, 13 freshmen in the state house, and we were in a meeting. We had just got there, and we were in a meeting with all of the veterans, and they were telling us that they were getting ready to, we were going to have to vote for a new Speaker of the House. And this was the first new speaker that we had in 40 years, something like that,
Wow.
because that other guy had been down there forever and he
Right.
left. And this was the first year that we were going to have to get a new speaker. We were all freshmen. And they were telling us who they wanted us to vote for. And we were like, wait a minute, we don't know these people. And it was two guys. We didn't know either one of them. And I convinced them. I said, we need to interview these guys that's running for speaker. And they were looking at me like, we freshmen. I said, and we got to vote. So let's tell them we want to interview them. And there was a guy that was in the house. He had been there for almost 40 something years.
Mm.
And you know who I'm talking about, Calvin.
Mm-hmm.
And we told Calvin, said, we ain't voting for none of them until we interview them. And he said, you better shut your little dumb butt up and go sit down. And we insisted we weren't going to do it. And we told them. And the two of them agreed to come, which I was surprised, but they agreed to come for us to interview them. That had never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the process, we had found that some of the Republicans, some of the Democrats were switching parties.
Mm.
They got elected as Democrats, but they were switching parties. So
Mm.
we asked both of the speaker candidates, if you're not elected, are you going to switch parties?
Mm.
And one of them said, of course not. I'm a Democrat and I'm going to stay a Democrat. The other one said, I don't know. I have to think about it. Guess who we
Mm.
voted for?
The one that said he wasn't switching.
And he won. He
All
became the
right.
Speaker of the
That was a
House.
good question. What made you think
Yeah,
of that? Oh, right. That's what was happening during that
that was
time. Yeah.
happening.
Right.
So we ended up, we selected the Speaker of the House. And we told him, we got a little crazier. We said, look, we got you elected. And if you want us to cooperate with you as we go forward, all of us want leadership positions.
Whoa. That
We
was
were,
bold.
yeah, we were freshmen. And
Yeah.
he said, what do y'all want? And we said, we don't want to be chairman of all these committees because we don't know, but at least the vice chair so we can learn it. And all 13 of us became vice chairman of committees as freshmen.
Wow. Nice.
Mine was the insurance committee.
Okay.
And at the time I was working for Atlanta Life, if you remember.
Right.
Yeah. So Atlanta Life was like, cool, we're good with that. And so that's what ended up happening. As time went on, a couple other things happened. There was a lady who you met, I believe you met her, that came to my office and she said, I was in a fight with my husband. And you said earlier, y'all hear all kinds of stuff. I heard all kinds of stuff too. And she said, my husband used to beat me up.
Mm.
And she said, one day I had enough and I fought back. And I beat him up so bad that when the police got there, they didn't know which one of us was the victim and which one of us was the perpetrator. So they locked both of them up
Mm.
until they figured out what was going on. But when they lock her up, they give her a mugshot.
Mm.
And
Mm.
they put her mugshot out, And when she was exonerated, the county took her mugshot down, but they had these companies out there would take those mugshots and put them on their own independent sites. And then when
Oh,
you went to them and said, look,
yes.
I've been, exonerated, take my mugshot down, they told her, give me $500 and we'll take it down.
It's like bribing them.
Basically. And so that's why she came to see me.
Extortion.
Okay. Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and we got a bill passed that made it illegal to charge people to take mugshots off of the internet, thinking that if we did that they wouldn't bother to put them out there because they couldn't charge to take them down.
Couldn't make any money, right?
Couldn't make any money. So we did that. Time went on, and I went through a whole bunch of different bills, but I don't know how much time we have, but I won't go all of them. Probably the bill that I'm going to be most remembered for, you were part of it, was the creation of the city of South Fulton. Took us 10 years to get that bill through all of the different iterations, all the different things we need to do. And it was kind of weird because the year that we got the bill passed, two things happened that were unusual. One, once a bill is in committee, if it doesn't get through the committee process, it typically dies. And that's it. You got to start all over again the next session. But what happened with this bill, it got selected for a vote, but it didn't get a second. And without a second, it couldn't go forward. And it didn't get a second because we had a Democrat that was on the committee that wouldn't second the daggone bill. You remember
Right.
that?
Yep.
She wouldn't second the bill. And so time went on. I thought it was all over with. I thought the bill was dead.
Yep.
Rodney was working with me at the time, and he came to me, and he had a woman with him, pulled me out of the chamber, and he said, "I think we might have a shot at this bill." And I was like, "Bill is dead." So, but I'll come out there, I'll listen. And I get out there,
You
and it
remember
was
who that was?
it
You
was a
remember who she
black
was?
female,
Yep. Go ahead.
Republican,
Right.
and I'm sorry, hang on. It was a
Camilla
black,
Johnson Moore.
yeah, it was a black female Republican. And she told me, she said, I think I could talk him into letting this bill come up again. I said, I'm game. Let's go try it.
Yep.
So we all sitting in his office, and he said, well, the bill didn't die because it didn't get voted on.
Right.
So change anything in the bill,
Right.
and I will bring it back up as
an amended bill.
As an amended bill.
Right.
And I think we changed it to an at or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something real simple.
It wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
And he had gone to the other Republicans on the committee and told them, when he brings it up, y'all second it. And that's what happened. We got back in that committee. The person that wouldn't second it the first time was there too. And she didn't know what was going on. And I brought the bill back up. That meeting took maybe 30 seconds.
Right. 30, 40 seconds,
long.
yes.
I brought the bill back up. He said, I'll look for a motion. One of them said, I vote that we pass it. Another one said, I second it. He said, all in favor say aye. They said aye. Meeting was over. I mean, that meeting couldn't last more than 30 seconds.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. We ended up calling it the Lazarus bill because
Right.
it came back from the dead.
Right.
And
but you worked on that all weekend
yeah,
with Camilla
Yep.
Johnson Moore.
Yeah.
Because she was in favor of cityhood, Rodney, and we worked together on a bipartisan basis. And with her help and Roger's persistence, that whole weekend they worked it out, man. I was amazed.
Never stopped.
Amazed.
And then finally, on the last day of the session,
right? Oh man,
the last day of the session, we're supposed to stop at midnight.
Right.
On the 40th day. Right. And I had been down there for all of these years, and we never went past midnight. Never. And this bill came up, and the Republicans had taken over by that time. And the bill, it was about 5 minutes to 12. And I was like, wait a minute, y'all said y'all gonna bring my bill up. What you doing about it? And the speaker kept telling me, go sit down. And I wouldn't go sit down. I kept up there. I kept at it, kept at it. 12 o'clock came. I just knew that was it. And what they did, the speaker said, traditionally we have stopped at midnight, but there's nothing legally that says we have to stop at midnight. And today we have one more bill that I want to get passed. He said that. I want to get it passed. And it's cityhood bill for Representative Bruce. And I went to, well, he told me, he said, if you take more than 2 minutes to talk about this bill, I'm going to sit you down. I said, okay, no problem. I went and I talked about the bill. And I said, please vote for it. And we got, probably about 90% of the folks to vote for it.
Yep.
And the bill passed.
Yep.
It went over to the governor's office. The governor signed it into law.
Yep.
And
we had the referendum.
We had the referendum to allow for it to go. And I had told them, I said, look, y'all got to get out there and we got all work to knock on these doors because my head turned gray. And I said, I want to make sure that when we get out there that we're going to pass this daggone bill.
Yep.
And we went, we knocked on doors. We did everything that you could think of to do. We had a couple of folks that were against it. They fought against it.
Oh, yeah.
And we ignored the heck out of them and just kept going. And the bill passed.
25,000 yes, 17,000 no.
Yeah. And so then we had to get this, we got the okay for the city. In the charter, we made specific things to make sure to try to protect it. We had a city manager, form of government. Because we didn't know who was going to get elected mayor or on the city council. We didn't know.
Yep.
And we couldn't select them ourselves. That would be nice, but we couldn't. But we didn't know. So we said, let's make this a weak mayor, form of government, and the city council, their job is to make policy and go home. That's what we came up with.
With a city manager.
And with a strong city manager. The idea being hire somebody that has run a city and knows how to run a city and do that. We also
take the politics out of it.
Take the politics out. We also had a charter. And in the charter, we set up where the city could not borrow money because we didn't want them going in debt, none of that stuff. So the idea was they couldn't spend more than they took in.
Right.
And we got all of that in there. We ended up electing 7 people, none of whom had ever had any political experience before. None.
No elected
0.
office. Right.
The mayor, he was a former county commissioner.
Right.
And he went in and he didn't have the power to say we're going to do this, do that, do the other. But he had the ability to come up with suggestions and take them to the city council. They could debate it. And if they came up with something that was really crazy, the balance was that he could veto it. But then if it wasn't that crazy, they had the ability to override his veto.
The veto. Right.
So we were trying to get checks and balances all over the place. And but they had to set up the city. They had to set up the police department, the fire department.
It was all run by the county at that time because we were unincorporated.
Everything was run by the county. And so they did, and they got it all set up. And we have a thriving city.
Yep.
Now, did we elect all the right people? That's up for debate.
Up for debate. Well said.
We have some that are very good. We have some that didn't need to be there. And
true.
So, again, I call it the way I see it.
Yep.
You have some that understood their role, and you have others that don't understand their role.
Yep.
And remember what I said earlier about being on the baseball team.
Yes, sir.
If you are playing somebody else's position, your position is not covered, and you're in the way of the other person. And we got some of that. So anyway, I know I talked a long time, I said I wasn't going to do that,
But I know
uh,
you. I know
but
you.
I hope I've given you some stuff to think about.
Right.
And as time went on, like I said, I served in that house for 22 years, and for 22 years I did everything I knew to do to help people. And most of the time, it was people coming to me and saying, "This is what I need help with." I don't know if you remember, Rodney. I don't even know if you were here yet. You might have been. You were here.
Yeah.
The kids came
Right.
to. There were some kids over at the school. There was two instances.
Yep.
Um, the principal told me that a lot of these kids don't have laptops. They don't have a way to get on the internet, nothing like that. And I found somebody in Washington, D.C. that had a program where every 2 years they would change out all of their laptops. And I asked her, well, what do you do with them? They said, we throw them away. I said, why? And they said, well, because we got information on it that we don't want people to know about, and we throw them away. I said, well, let me ask you this. If y'all have all these computers, y'all got some people that know how to work computers, don't you? They said, yeah. I said, well, can't they delete everything off of it? They just had never thought about doing it. And they said, well, yeah, I guess we could. I said, well, if you do that, I want the computers. And they told me, okay, come get them. So I flew up there. I rented a truck, not knowing how many they were going to give me. They gave me 1,000 computers. And I brought them all
Yes. I
back down here
remember.
and took them over to the school and gave them to the kids.
I
You remember
remember.
that?
Yes.
And so those kids who had never, they would never get a computer. They had their own laptops. I had another instance where I had gone over there and I talked to the kids about how bills get passed, how, things work. And when I left, one of the kids called me and he said, Representative Bruce, I got a bill I want you to get passed. He was 10 years old. And I was like, okay, what is it? He said, I want you to come back to the school. And when you get back to the school, then I'll tell you. He had my attention. I got back to the school. He had the principal, had all the other students. They were all in the cafeteria. And he had told them that I was coming back over there. He was organizing, 10 years old.
I love it.
And I asked him, I said, well, okay, I'm here. What's the bill you want? He said, I want my mom and my dad to be able to come to school to participate in my activities without getting fired from their job. Apparently, they worked for a company that if you didn't come to work, they fired you. They had in Georgia, they had this thing called the doctrine of employment at will.
Right.
And fire you for any reason or no reason, as long as it's not a violation of federal law.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got my attention, and we ended up organizing the students in the school. The students became reporters. They became, what's the word I'm looking for? They became activists
Mm-hmm.
and lobbyists, and
Mm-hmm.
they kept coming to the Capitol. And I set up an appointment. Were you in that meeting? I set up an appointment
Mm-hmm.
for them
Mm-hmm.
to meet with the governor. These
Mm-hmm.
were 10-year-olds.
Right.
And I set up a meeting with them and the governor. And they sitting in the governor's office, their parents sitting in the back. The parents were not participating in the meeting. It was the kids talking to the
Right.
governor. And they told the governor, they said, we are not old enough to vote for you. But our parents sitting back there are. We want you to support our bill. We're going to tell our parents not to vote for you.
Yep. Yep. They
And
were bold.
and I was sitting there. I'm like, these kids, oh, these my kids,
Right. Right.
And so Governor bust out laughing, and he said, "Well, I want your parents to vote for you, so we'll go from there. Vote for me, so I'll go from there." And so the bill went through. They had kids from all over the state involved in this thing. And on the day it came up for a vote in the House, the gallery in the back was filled with little kids. They had organized, they had buses to bring them down to the Capitol, all kind of stuff. But they learned the process.
Right.
Every day at their school, they had their in-house camera equipment and all that stuff. And the kids that became reporters had to report on the status of their bill to the rest of the school.
Mm-hmm.
And the other kids would come down to the Capitol and lobby and do all the stuff they need to do. And so we got the bill passed out of the House. It went over to the Senate. When it got to the Senate, it got the attention of the Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't pay it as much attention in the House. Got over there, and they were like, oh, wait a minute, these kids ain't playing. And they ended up, the state Chamber of Commerce ended up campaigning against these kids' bill because they wanted to keep the doctrine of employment at will.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were discouraging these kids from the process. I still wanted to see how it worked because sometimes you get a bill passed and sometimes you don't.
And you don't.
And that bill ended up not getting passed through the Senate. Got out of the House, but when it got to the Senate, they punked out. And the bill did not pass. But what we ended up doing is every year we took one piece of that original bill and attached it to some other bill. So eventually, as time went on, almost every piece of that original bill became law because it got introduced with another bill. So those kids that were 10 years old influenced public policy and changed the way things went in this state. And I wanted to give those kids their kudos. They're all grown up now, but the point is, I don't care how old you are, you can make changes. You can impact and influence public policy. And if a 10-year-old sees this, I want them to be encouraged. Okay.
Was that Sandtown Middle School or was it?
No, that was
A. Philip Randolph.
A. Philip Randolph
A.
Elementary
Philip
School.
Randolph Elementary. Right. Amazing history and story, man. I appreciate your service to the state of Georgia, and particularly to the African American community. He's very shy, you know. He also advanced a minority business development bill.
I sure did.
That we were way behind in Georgia on this type of stuff. And it took a couple years to get it done. And it told him about how it wound up getting into law, Roger. Because when you're in the minority, things happen in a different way.
Yeah, we're in the minority, and I advocated really hard for that bill. I mean, I spent a lot of time on it, and I went to the governor and I asked him to support the bill. Instead of supporting the bill as my work, he introduced the bill as as the governor's order. It was a governor's order to do this. He went out and hired a black female to manage the development authority, and basically just said, we're going to do it. It didn't even go through that process. And then once we went back in session, they introduced it. The Republicans introduced my bill and passed it. And that's what happened.
And that was the year that Stacey Abrams was running for governor, and it looked like they needed to have something to win over some of the black vote. So it's about timing, Raj. My experience working with you is it's about timing and what's in it for them.
And
basically, correct? And perseverance. Yeah.
What's in it for them? You know, you find that if like that bill that I talked to you about with the
contractors.
No, not the contractors. The cars.
Right.
You know, the way I got that bill passed is I found some Republicans. If you remember this, I found some Republicans who had children that had mugshots out there, and that were going through it. And I told them about the legislation. They said, absolutely, we want to support this. So I had as many Republicans sign that bill as I did Democrats.
Right.
And that's what you had to do. You had to find things that made them feel like they were getting something out of it. And even with the city of South Fulton, if you remember this, Rodney,
right?
You know, the Republicans supported us on that bill.
That's correct.
But they supported us because they thought they were hurting us.
Correct.
And the reason that they thought they were hurting us was that back then you had a sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
And the county collected all of that money, but they had to divide it up amongst the cities. In the cities, we were not a city. So we did
Right.
not get our share
Right.
of that money.
Right. It
But
stayed with the county, right?
the state with the county,
Right.
but the county used our portion of it to support everybody else,
Correct.
including us, but everybody else. But everybody else thought that because the county was giving us money, that it was money that they weren't getting.
Right.
That's what they thought.
Right.
And I kept letting them think it. And so when the bill, when everything got passed and we became a city, we immediately got $25 million. And the rest of them were looking at us like, well, wait a minute, whoa, what's going on? They didn't understand that they had just helped us become a city, and now we got our fair share based on population
Right.
of that money.
Right.
And so, but that's what you had to do. And I kept telling everybody, do not tell them what's going on, because if they figure it out,
Right.
we won't get our city.
That's
And
correct.
we didn't tell them, but they thought that they were hurting us, and we got it. But that's how it happened.
That's right. So
Is that how you remember it?
Yes, sir. You have to play the cards dealt. You know.
So,
Well, we appreciate you spending this time with us during the holiday season, and as you retire from your state rep position, I know that you're still going to have influence in the decisions that are being made. I know folks are going to be coming to you to get your input and your experience around
and
a lot
that's
of these issues.
that's happening, and I'll be willing to share whatever I have. You know, I've never been
Right.
selfish with that stuff,
Right.
and if I have it, you have it.
Yep.
But I want to do one last thing, if I could. Y'all
Please.
want to know?
Please.
Y'all want to
Please.
know what I'm going to be doing next?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Brandon, bring it over here for a minute.
This
Hurry
is
up.
his son. The daddy to his grandbaby, his new grandbaby.
Yes.
Oh, hey,
Say
Brandon.
hi, no.
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Say
Good to
hi.
see you, man.
Good to see you as well.
Say hi.
All right. The next
That's what I'm going to be
generation.
doing next.
Good
Yep.
for you, man. Good for you.
All right.
Okay.
That's all y'all get.
That's a precious job, Raj.
Just a quick cameo. Quick
Yeah.
cameo. That's it.
Enjoy, man.
That's all y'all
Enjoy.
get.
Enjoy.
So anyway, I hope that didn't mess y'all up. I hope, but anyway.
No.
No,
Yeah.
Man. It's your show, bro. You our guest, man. You
Yeah,
know.
but that's what I'm gonna be spending my time doing.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
All right.
I love it. Well, we're going to wrap it up. You got any last comments there, Brother Butler?
No, man, it's just outstanding just listening to, 20 years, over 20 plus years under the dome. I do appreciate, some of the ways that Rep Bruce were able to, play some people at their own game, or, in order to get things passed and things done for the people. But for those people, I know we have, some of the younger listeners and some of the younger followers of the Black Man's Roundtable who may say, but this is why, because Rep Bruce had to do so many things that was, unconventional, sometimes, and had to put it to where, as the old men would say sometimes, back in the day, put it where the ghost can get it. But also he
Where the ghost can get it. I like that.
but he also had to do things like that. I know turns off, some of the, millennials or whatever, which is where he had to kind of show those other Republican representatives that, hey, your kids may have these mug shots too. And you know how they say sometimes you don't care until it hits home, and that
Yep.
and that does turn off people sometimes with politics. But I think for them to be able to see that this is what, a respected representative, a people of the people, someone who is not just skin folk but also kinfolk, had to do this in order to, get that kind of legislation passed. I think it's refreshing, but I also think that I just want to tell the young people that, hey, you see, if Rep Bruce had to do this, it ain't always something that is bad. Don't let it turn you off, because even our very own Representative Roger Bruce had to let the people know that hey, it hits home with you too. So
Yep. That's
Yeah,
it.
Raj, you had a poem closing poem, I think, to get the holiday spirit and get folks to laugh. Why don't you share that with us as we look into 2025?
You ever want that too?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
was doing
yeah,
that with you.
yeah.
No, man. Come on.
All right, what did I tell y'all? This is, I don't want y'all to take this seriously, but anyway,
Yes.
I come before you to stand behind you. That's what you want?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
I come before you to stand behind you, to tell you a story I know nothing about. One bright day in the middle of the night, two dead boys got up to fight. And back to back, they faced each other and drew their swords and shot each other. A deaf policeman heard the noise and came and killed the two dead boys. And if you don't believe that that lie is true, you ask Donald Trump, because he saw it too.
Thank you, Rush. Well, on that note, you can catch the Roundup with Rodney on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like and subscribe to the Black Man's Roundtable on Facebook and YouTube. We are also on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. We hope that you all have a great new year and be safe, joyous, and merry.
Happy New Year, family. Happy New Year, brothers. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have show ideas or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please follow us on Facebook.